Everybody, thank you guys all so much for chiming in. I was really confused. I don't know why. When I started my intro, it was choppy the entire time. I have no clue why. I don't know when it cut off. All I know is that I'm live now. I'm happy I'm live now. How's it going, everybody? Thank you guys all so much for chiming in for a breaking... Exactly, there's no 30-day IL. I don't know what to say. Regardless, we have a breaking news live stream to discuss with you all a couple hours before tonight's game, in which the Mets need to win this ball game against the Miami Marlins. I'm going nuts. We're all going nuts. You can't go below 500 in your first 7 games against absolute piss-poor opponents to start September. But that's besides the point, folks. The Mets have finally done it. They have brought up Mark effing Vientos, and it could not come at a better time. A lot of people think, a little too late, but hey, I'm so glad that they brought up this kid. I have a lot to say on him. This is not a Mets panic move, and here's the thing. Mark Vientos is someone that we've wanted on the Mets all year long. The only reason why he has not been brought up is because they brought in Ruff. They brought in Vogelback. They brought in Naquin, all guys that can fill in at the DH around the trade deadline. Here's the thing, though, especially for Darren Ruff, I have no ill will against the guy. He has not been good. In a limited role, he has done absolutely nothing. Now you bring in Mark Vientos, and hopefully the Mets will give him an opportunity to succeed versus lefties, especially where he has over 1,000 OPS. And against righties, too, Vientos has this roughly 900 OPS. He hit a freaking bomb to the batter's eye yesterday for AAA Syracuse. He's done everything at the minor league level so far this year, guys. It's important that the Mets finally brought him up. Now, here's the thing with Mark Vientos. This is a shock to me. What's up, AB? Long time no see. Appreciate you in the chat. Shout out everyone. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, guys. We'll go on for like upwards of a half hour, maybe 40 minutes. I don't know, especially because this is coming before the game today. But what I do know is that Vientos is someone that I've never been under the belief would really land with the Mets after realizing more and more what was happening with Vogelback, with Ruff, how they were orchestrating, really lining up this roster. It just did not feel that there was a fit. There's a reason why they didn't bring up Vientos earlier when we saw the injuries to Beatty. And the biggest gripe with Mark Vientos, guys, is not his bat. His bat is the exact reason why he is where he is right now up in the MLB. But it's the fact of his lack of defense. Vientos is known for the third base position. He has first base. He can play in the corner outfield. These are positions that he's not really good at, though. He's someone that we saw Brett Beatty struggle a little bit, to say the least, defensively in his handful of games with the Mets. Mark Vientos is even worse than that. So I don't expect Vientos to really get any time at the third base position. Maybe we'll see him get some games at first with Alonso at DH, which I'm cool with. If you want to put him in the field at all, that's fine. I mean, it's not like the Mets have a gold glove first baseman right now as is. Alonso's usually up and down. We see that throughout the year. But the Mets are bringing up a bat that should hopefully help jolt this offense, and they need it. Let's keep it frank. As frustrated as Joely Rodriguez was coming into the game yesterday for the Mets, it was even worse knowing that they kept grounding into ridiculous double plays, especially when they had bases loaded yesterday and couldn't get more than the one run that they got. It was ridiculous. Give me 1 second. I realized that I have this up still. This is from my Rangers podcast I did yesterday or the day before. I don't even remember. Time goes so fast for me. But guys, I want to know everyone's raw reaction to Mark Vientos being called up, because this is really important for the Mets. Okay, clearly if they're calling up the kid, one, he is available for playoffs. Now, shout out to my boy Rec and Joe for the Bleav in Queens podcast. We discussed it 2 episodes ago, and I was pretty sure they were wrong, but I didn't correct them because I fell off. Yes, for those that don't know, Mark Vientos is on the 40-man roster, which means that he is available come playoff time. Should Vientos do good in his call-up? I don't know when the transaction is going to happen. I don't know if this means Marte will be on the IL. We will find out in the ensuing, maybe over the next hour or so. But what I do know is that Vientos is available for playoffs should he perform well enough to stay on this roster. And no, the Mets do not need to call down, say, Vientos with the emergence of Yorme, because they have guys like Terrence Gore and Devin Marrero on the active roster right now. There is zero reason to not give Mark Vientos a shot at this juncture. He should be taking at-bats away from Darren Ruff, who's done literally little to nothing. And it frustrates me to say, because I like Darren Ruff. I have no ill will against the guy, but he has not transitioned well whatsoever in the Mets uniform. And the Mets do not have time to sacrifice putting in automatic outs in this lineup on an everyday basis without at minimum giving kids a shot that have done everything humanly possible at the AAA level to come in and get something done. So Vientos now enters this Mets club, dominating the year, the 6'4", just under 200-pounder, drafted in the second round by the Amazons of 2017, 24 bombs, 72 RBIs, 66 runs scored, a 280 batting average, and a just sub 900 OPS for Vientos. Now let's keep in mind, had a god-awful start to the season. Mark Vientos, every year so far in his pro career, has had a piss-poor first month to month and a half of the season. Takes him a little bit to get adjusted. So it makes it that even more impressive to see what Vientos has done in such a, I shouldn't say short period of time, it's been the remainder of the year, but the point is that he even had a god-awful month in April where he did absolutely nothing for AAA Syracuse. So let's take a month out of the season away, and he still managed to put up a roughly 300 average and a roughly 900 OPS. That's impressive. And again, the Mets need someone like this in their roster to hopefully give them a spark. The offenses continue to be up and down. I mean, look, Edward Cabrera has nasty stuff. I get it. I didn't expect that to be easy go things for the Mets yesterday, but they had their opportunities and they still blew it. The bullpen, god-awful moves there by Buck Showalter. I love you, Buck, but another display of you not properly managing the bullpen, which we all know has been the biggest gripe in your managerial career. You need to get better, because if you don't, we're going to have problems down the stretch come playoff time. For the first time since April 11th, the Mets are not in first place in the division. They're a half game back, so if the Mets win tonight and the Braves lose, best case scenario, the Mets are already up in the division again. And again, I expect it to be a seesaw. I said this for the past couple weeks now. I expect to be going back and forth between the two teams, most likely until they match up in Atlanta, the second and final series of the year for both teams respectively. But again, the fact that the Mets finally brought up Mark Vientos, when they've emphasized time and time again, the lack of defensive versatility, all these things. One, this is something where you look at the Mets and, yeah, they are starting to be contradictive now. And I think the biggest thing that frustrates me is, look, they've given leashes to these other guys that haven't produced, and they've given extended leashes. And now, yes, I'm going to go, okay, Marte is on the IL with a fractured right middle finger. Mets are calling out Mark Vientos for tonight. So Mark Vientos will be off the bench for the Mets tonight. He may even make his debut, guys. Breaking news. Starling Marte is going on the IL, and the only concerning thing about Marte going on the IL, everybody, is the fact that if he's going on the IL right now, I could be wrong, but I thought that if he did not go on the IL past yesterday, if he did, I should say, then he would have been retroactive to Wednesday since the last time he played or was available. So I don't know if this IL stint will all be retroactive now, which is unfortunate. So you're losing Marte to what? For the next 10 to 15 days if it's not retroactive, whatever it's going to be. We'll find out more details. It was just broken, though, that, yes, Starling Marte is going on the IL, folks, and Mark Vientos is the corresponding move. He is the transaction called up. So unfortunate with Marte, that sucks, but a positive that at least, thank God, the Mets are not bringing up like a Khalil Lee, or they're not bringing up, someone else like a Travis Blankenhorn. Nothing personal against these guys. They've done really well at AAA, but Mark Vientos has literally played his way into being back with this Mets team. Not back, but finally making his debut, guys. Bear with me. I'm just checking any and all updates that we get for the Mets right now, so give me 1 second. But yeah, Starling Marte's on the IL. Mark Vientos has, in fact, been called up as a corresponding move. And McGill is coming back. McGill will be back for the Mets homestand. Yeah, McGill and Trevor May are expected to be back with the Mets. I shouldn't even say McGill. McGill, who just pitched another scoreless inning yesterday. I'll describe it later in post-game. Hopefully after Mets win today, I'll go over all the updates further. But I know that Trevor May and Luis Guillorme are expected to be back with the Mets for their homestand once they're done in Miami. So that's definitely positive, too. The Mets are getting reinforcements. But this is something that us Mets fans have been preaching for quite literally all year long, ever since Mark Vientos started to get hot, and the Mets had nothing going at the DH position with the Dom Smith, with the JD Davis, who's raking in San Francisco. But again, he was never going to do that with the Mets this year. We all know that. Anyone that thinks otherwise wasn't watching JD Davis in Queens the past year and a half with his hand injury. He adjusted his swing a little bit, the Giants, to go with player development. And again, he's back home because he's from the area. He's from Northern California, so I'm sure he has a comfort level there or a fresh start. Point I'm trying to make again is that this is something that, to say it's been long overdue is the farthest thing from the truth. I've discussed Mark Vientos out like going back to like early July on why this guy should be given a shot way before the Mets got Daniel Vogelbach, way before they got the Darren Ruffs and the Tyler Naquins of the world. And when they brought in these guys in the red hot start, you could understand why the Mets will not be bringing up Vientos. But as you see these guys start to falter, especially Darren Ruff, who's literally done nothing of what he's supposed to be, which is a lefty killer off the bench, facing lefties as a starter even. He's literally done little to none of that. Now's the time for Mark Vientos. And I know that the Mets want to ride these things out as long as they could because they didn't want to make, say, the Ruff trade look bad, but it already looks bad. At this point, it's more than just worrying about your egos if you're Billy Epler, or just trying to say, you know, we're going to milk this thing as long as we can to try to get something out of it before the year ends. You're in a pennant race right now for first in the NL East, okay? You just lost first. Doesn't matter that's by half a game. You're a game down in the loss column. Wake the F up. It's annoying that it took them this long to do it, but it's a positive that they at least did it. I am shook. I am shocked that Mark Vientos was actually caught up by the New York Mets. I did not expect this to happen because the endless opportunities that they have had for the past couple months, pre-trade deadline, post-trade deadline, they've had endless opportunities to bring up this kid when he's been red hot all summer long, and they finally did it. So shout out to the Mets. It's better late than never. Regardless on if it's desperation or not, Mr. Delightful, this was a move that should have always happened. Okay, and hey, if it is desperation, then so be it. As long as he impacts the club for the better, that's fine. It literally doesn't matter. It's not like it was a desperation trade. You know what I mean? So this was a good move. This was a very good move for the Mets. I'm happy. Mark Vientos, again, guys, who's been having a great year in 101 games in AAA, as I mentioned already. 280 average, 358 on base percentage, a 519 slug, 877 OPS. Last year, splitting time in both AA and AAA, 933 OPS with a 281 average. And he had himself last year, how many bombs did he hit? 25 and 63. So he's on an even better pace this year in all of AAA. Didn't even spend a second, didn't sniff a second in AA this year. It's been all AAA for the first year and all AAA for that is Mark Vientos, and he has looked phenomenal all year long outside the first month of the season. So Starling Marte, again, is the guy going on the IL. I want to find out for Marte's sake if he's someone I don't think he's retroactive. That's the only thing that sucks. Matthew, I'm sorry for your grandmother's passing. You have mentioned this in the chat before. That was from 2 years ago. Okay, let's see. Give me 1 second, everybody. I'm just trying to see if they're okay. Starling Marte on the IL. Mets calling up Vientos. Marte's stint is backdated to Wednesday. Okay, good. I was concerned. My mistake. I tweeted out yesterday. I thought that Starling Marte was not going to be retroactive if he was placed on the IL today. I am wrong. I was wrong, and I apologize for that. That's good, though. Marte is retroactive. He can be available to return to the Mets in exactly 1 week. That's big. That is absolutely huge. So the Mets can get him for next weekend. That is Marte. Sucks that he's going on the IL. But again, if you look at the matchups, if you look at who the Mets are playing, it should not mean a rat's effing ass that they do not have Starling Marte for the next week of games. The lack of consistency with this offense, to say it has driven me nuts, is the biggest understatement in the world. The lack of bullpen management that we saw. Again, Buck was just, I'm sorry. I love you, Buck. You've been great all year, but your bullpen management needs to be better. Why in God's name are you throwing out Joely yesterday to face mainly righties when you have Edwin who hasn't pitched in over a week, and then you bring his ass in after Joely blows it and makes it instead of a one-run ball game? Why are we even considering Joely one-run ball games to then bring in Diaz after that? What are you doing? Wake up. Every game should be as if you're playing the Braves. Every game should have the same urgency, the same way that the Braves have urgency, like every game's a playoff game, no matter if they're playing the fucking Pirates or if they're playing now the Seattle Mariners. Show some damn urgency, and I pray to God that this little, the half game back sparks a fire under this team's ass, because it is absolutely ridiculous that they have been playing this inconsistent against god-awful clubs. There's zero excuses for it. Doesn't matter if you have Marte or not. You should be able to win these games with fucking ease without Marte. You're playing the Marlins. You're playing the Cubs. You're playing the Pirates. It should not matter. Mark Vientos, I really hope for Mark's sake that, again, he gets a good amount of opportunities here. He deserves it. I'm going to be even more pissed if Vientos is just called up for him to not get any playing time at all. So it's important to actually give this kid a shot and see what he can bring for you over the next week. And at minimum, and hopefully he stays on the team. Hopefully, again, as we said with Brett Beatty, that Mark Vientos can play his way into staying on this roster for the remainder of the season for the 23 games that they have left, and then heading, of course, into playoffs, because he is playoff eligible. I apologize for Wrecker and Joe being completely wrong that we discussed 2 episodes ago on the podcast. I don't know why they thought that he wasn't on the 40-man. I don't know why I didn't correct them, because I knew for a fact, too. I don't know why I reacted the way that I did and didn't correct them. I don't know why, but next time I will surely do that if we realize that something is off. But guys, what's everyone's raw reaction to Mark Vientos being called up? I'm gonna put a poll here in the live chat. Continue smashing that like and subscribe button, guys. Greatly appreciate it. If we can get to 300 plus likes by the end of the live show, or 200 even, that would greatly be appreciated. So thank you guys all so much in advance. Give me 1 second. I want to put up a poll here quick in the live show. We're at 65 likes. Thank you guys. Help us get to 100 likes for the first short-term goal before we go forward. Thank you all in advance. But yeah, let's see. Thoughts on Mark Vientos being called up? There you go. All right, we got the poll in the chat. That is awesome. Make sure to check it out, guys. And yeah, guys, also apologies. I was out yesterday. That's why I was not able to go live. If I went live yesterday, it would have been a rant that was somewhat in hand with what we've done so far now, but I'm just happy. It may be a little too late. No, it's never too late to bring up a top prospect. It's never too late for that. This Mets team should be good enough to get their heads out of their asses with their inconsistent offense. But again, things are easier said than done. Now, with Brett Beatty out for the remainder of the regular season, and Beatty's not going to play another game with the Mets this year. As much as I would like him to, he's not going to be ready until playoff time, and they're not going to give him reps in playoffs after being out for over a month with injury. It's not going to happen more than likely, but it's nice to see. 9% bozos love the honesty. Exactly. But I'm happy that the Mets finally brought up this kid when he has proven time and time again that he deserves to be on the club. The only gripe, if Mark Vientos just had an average glove at third base, he would have been called up months ago, literally months ago, like in the beginning of Eddie's injury too. But Beatty has been the better third baseman. He's the guy with the higher upside. He's younger. Beatty's awesome. We know that. He has so much raw potential. Vientos, however, has the power. He looks more MLB ready when it comes to his bat potentially. It's just defense. That's the thing. I don't think we're going to see Vientos get much of any playing time in the field. But the Mets bring up Vientos knowing that Guillorme is expected to return to the Mets after this Marlins away trip, because then the Mets are home for a nice long homestand. It tells me that hopefully the Mets will have a rotation of having Vientos maybe start, even if Vientos is only starting 1 of 3 games in a series and Vogel's starting the other 2 at DH. Just see what the kid can do. Give him an opportunity. That's all I ask. Just give him an effing opportunity. I don't think that's a lot to ask for us. Reeks of desperation by the Mets. However, I understand the call up knowing Marte got injured. Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. It doesn't even matter if it reeks of desperation as long as the kid can actually play, because he's not a kid where this is not like a Francisco Alvarez situation where you're calling up a guy that's your top prospect but is not MLB ready. He's not MLB ready from a defensive standpoint, nor is he from his adjusted bat at AAA right now. And of course, he's dealing with his injury at the moment. That's why he's not playing with his ankle injury. If he was healthy and was called up, I would call that desperation. Versus Vientos, who all year long has performed at a rate that you'd imagine would make him worthy enough to be, at minimum, a DH option on this MLB roster. I was literally talking with people on social media yesterday. I'm like, the Mets will not call up this kid. They've proven time and time again that they will not call up this kid. And I'm so happy to be proven wrong. I'm shook. I was on my way back home from lunch, like 20 minutes away. I got the update from John Heyman on my phone. Shout out to whoever it was that first tagged me in, because you guys always put me on to the Mets updates when it isn't when they first drop. And then I was like, all right, I got to get my ass home and talk about this because this is a big deal. This is a big deal. I'm very happy to see it. Shout out to Derek for NYY recaps. What's up, my man? How are you? Derek says, I'm glad one New York team isn't afraid to call up their top prospect. I mean, he isn't our number 1 top prospect, NYY recaps. He's our number 7, but he's a top prospect for us. Same thing with Brett Beatty before his injury. Our top prospect is Francisco Alvarez. I know the Yanks, they can't seem to do anything right, but you know that story with Cashman, unfortunately. I know that you guys have up Peraza right now, if I'm not mistaken. Is it right? Don't you guys have up Peraza? But now you guys are considering Volpe, but Volpe's the one that hasn't been brought up yet. No less, thank you so much for chiming in, brother. Hope you're doing well. And shout out to you guys. I know that most of you guys do not care for Yankees content, but if you do, if you're interested in seeing what's happening across town in the Bronx, make sure to check out the best Yankees YouTube channel in the game, and that is Derek NYY Recaps. Highest quality and just most genuine reactions you'll ever see. Check him out. Thank you so much for chiming in, Derek, as always. Mr. Delightful, do you think we could get Judge? We'll worry about that come the offseason, right? I'm not at all interested in offseason talk right now. I'm focused on the now, especially with the Mets being a half game out of first. I'm not interested at talking about anything else than what is happening to this team right now. Guys, Mark Vientos, and this was just tweeted by Jacob Resnick. So cool that Mark Vientos is going to join the Mets in Miami of all places. His family and friends are local to the area. I imagine he'll have a ton of fans at the game, friends. His father grew up a Mets fan and brought Mark up that way. Reyes, Wright, and Beltran were his favorite players. That's awesome. I knew that Mark was a Mets fan. I didn't know that he had family from the Miami area, though. So that's new news to me. That's very cool, though. So, yeah, you're telling me we got a Mark Vientos that grew up a Mets fan. Going to make his MLB debut potentially tonight as a pinch hitter? Potentially, especially if, say, would the Mets get matched up with a lefty from the pen? So, that's good. I like that. I'm excited. I'm so happy for this kid. Again, he deserves it. He's played his ass off all year long after, again, a bad start to the season, let's not forget, in the first month. Ever since then, he's been doing phenomenal things. Unneeded circus, bad timing sounds more of like a July or August thing. It's not a circus when your offense has been inconsistent for over a month. No, it's called finally acting on the way that you should be acting with a guy who knows how to competently hit lefties, at least at the AAA level. Now, whether he can do that at the MLB level is yet to be seen. But there's literally zero risk in bringing up a Vientos. There's risk in bringing up, say, a healthy Alvarez. There's definitely risk there, but there's not risk with bringing up a Vientos who's done everything at the AAA level already. That's the best part. If he has to just ride the pine and just ride the bench, so be it. But he'll be fine. This is not going to hurt his development. The only way that this can impact him is in a positive way, and that's what's most important here. The season is not a disappointment. That's the trade deadline was a disappointment, okay? Not doing enough bullpen-wise was a disappointment. This season is the farthest thing from a disappointment. That's what I got to say. Anyone that thinks that this season has been a disappointment are probably the biggest schmuck of casual fans in all baseball. You're going to tell me you're that spoiled that Steve Cohen changing this entire roster and coaching staff in front office top to bottom in one offseason. That's near impossible to do, yet he managed to do it. Put this Mets team on pace to win upwards of 100 games this year and would be 10 games up in any other division in baseball if they didn't have the hottest team in all the league, the reigning World Series champs, behind their ass all year until now. They just got up in first for a half game. If you think that is a disappointing season, then by God, you're just not paying attention. You should be grateful with the type of year that this has been for the Mets, all things considered. I just think it's the funniest thing in the world to have the audacity to call this a disappointment. It is the farthest thing from it. The best season that I've ever witnessed as a young fan in my lifetime, and hopefully not the last. Just outrageous that people come out with comments like that. Outrageous. You shouldn't say it's disappointing if they don't win the division, because the Braves have literally been the best team in baseball. Yes, the Mets should win the division, I agree. But I will not say that the year is a disappointment when the Braves are literally 40 games up since June 1st. 40 plus. And the Mets still have 2 more wins on them. And the Mets are 9-7 against the Braves this year. The Mets are like the only team. I shouldn't say they're the only team that has a winning record against the Braves this year because that's not true. But for the Mets have played the Braves, I'm pretty sure more than any other team this year. And they're the only team with the type of record that they have. Trade deadline, huge disappointment. Season disappointment, no. September disappointment right now, absolutely. Absolutely. 100% agree. This month has been a terrible start to the month. Terrible start. It needs to be better. 1,000%. Yeah, no, it is not a disappointment. It is not a disappointment, Reiku. Farthest thing from the truth. No. Gonna be stuck playing the damn Phillies. Yeah, and if are you concerned if you had to play the Phillies? Are you really concerned if you had to play the Phillies to start playoffs? That's I don't know what to tell you. Regardless on who the Mets match up with come playoff time, I will never stand with the notion that this season has been a disappointment. And yes, I know that I know that Mark Vientos is not starting for this game. Hopefully he'll start tomorrow though. I don't know if it's a righty or a lefty though. Hold on. Yes, Mark Vientos should start tomorrow, guys, because Jesus Luzardo's on the bump. There we go. Marky V might come off the bench today, but he should start tomorrow with Jesus Luzardo, as long as they don't have that being and Darren Ruff start tomorrow. And honestly, Darren Ruff is the guy where if he's going to face lefties, he should be coming off the bench later in the game. Because if you look at Darren Ruff's splits further this season, he's far superior against lefty relievers than he is lefty starters. So stop having him start games. You're going to bring him in the game, bring him in later in the game against a lefty reliever and hope that's a better matchup. But yeah, we don't even need him starting right now. Just give Vientos a shot. Yoshima, thank you so much for the $5 donation. I'm excited to see what Marky V does. Not going to lie, what was a bit discouraged after game 1 in Pittsburgh, but they proved me wrong and all positivity now. Yeah, I mean, look, this Mets team has plenty more work to do this month, especially now being back in the division technically for the first time all season, since April 11th, literally all season. But yeah, hopefully they can get themselves on a roll now, just take everything day by day, control what they can control, and hopefully Seattle can at minimum win one game in that series against the Braves. It won't be easy tonight, though, because I know you got the stud Southpaw Freed on the bump, facing Wayne Kirby, who's been really good too. And then to the final game, I forget who's on the bump for the Braves, but I know that it's Marcos Gonzalez on the mound for the Mariners. But Yoshima, thank you so much for the dono. And guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to get out of here now, guys. I'll be back live after the Mets game tonight at the time of you guys watching this live. But for people on replay, make sure to smash that like and subscribe on as well. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your raw reaction to Mets top prospect, infielder /DH, Mark Vientos finally, long awaited, being called up to the New York Mets? And what is your expectation for potential impact, if at all, he'll have on this roster? George Kirby. Yes, I always say Wayne Kirby. But yes, George Kirby. That is correct. But guys, thank you so much for checking out the latest show here on WardyNYM Breaking News live stream. I always say Wayne Kirby. I always say Wayne instead of Georgia by accident. But guys, thank you so much. We'll be back live, win or lose, after tonight's game 2 against Miami. But until then, have a great rest of your night, day, evening, whenever you're watching this, folks. Marky V's finally New York Met. Let's see what this kid can do. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.